It's up to you, New York, New York.
How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I am your host, Richie. On today's show, going to be hitting on yesterday's All-Star game for Major League Baseball, the first ever that was decided by a home run-like decider, as Kyle Schwarber played hero. Each manager, Dave Roberts and Aaron Boone, selected their sluggers to decide it as the American League stormed back from a big deficit to make the game interesting. Don't think it's something we'll necessarily see in a real game, but it does kind of beat just the monotony of the typical baseball game that doesn't count. Once upon a time, the Midsummer Classic decided the league that would have home advantage for the World Series. I know certain people were not a fan of that. I thought all in all, Major League Baseball put on a good show last night. They recently asked Aaron Judge why he no longer participates in the home run derby. I kind of like the answer. They were trying to get a little more out of him, saying, what if Shohei does it? They made a mention of the great Michael Jordan leaving the dunk contest rather early after the iconic dunk in the old Chicago Stadium when he edged out Dominique Wilkins. They brought up his World Baseball Classic, how he does so much for the game. Judge basically stated, what more do you want me to do? He didn't say it in a trolling kind of way, just in other words, saying how he was rather moved and excited as a fan of O'Neal Cruz that he was able to join. And he said new faces need to be in this to continue to grow the game of baseball. So in that regard, I think the Yankee captain gets it. I know that some in my fan base with rival banter with the New York Mets have often given a hard time that Pete Alonso keeps entering this. But to each their own. It's a fun tournament. I am glad that Jazz Chisholm got to take his licks, but that he was out of there early, because I am a firm believer that the home run derby does have a propensity for messing up people's swings and sometimes actually leading to injury. And speaking of potential injury, I think many fan bases who believe that third base superstar of the Arizona Diamondbacks, Eugenio Suarez, may be going there at the deadline, trade deadline, took a long gasp yesterday as he took one off the hand. I believe it was the pinky, but it looks like Eugenio is okay, thankfully. I know for one, I was a little concerned as his name has been linked to a potential trade to my New York Yankees. The Yankees are definitely in the market for a third baseman. But as the game goes, high excitement. I did well on my parlay, hit every ticket I played yesterday. Every player prop, every game prop I played yesterday, I was able to do a clean sweep 6 for 6 on 6 different tickets. Thank you, Junior Caminero. Thank you, Paul Skeens. But as the game goes, turning point in my estimation, the Pete Alonso opposite shot, opposite field home run The Stars were out yesterday, and it was cool just seeing the level of competition and seeing the genuine love for the game that all these guys share. I think it was also pretty cool seeing a lot of old school players, old school managers partaking in the events. Really great to see Mr. Torre, Joe Torre, four-time World Series champion as manager of the New York Yankees during the dynasty years. He ultimately took them to six. 83 years young, looking very good. So it was great to see Joe Torre at the event. But yeah, the home run derby, the home run style derby that decided it. Aaron Boone and Dave Roberts selected sluggers to each get swings to decide it. It came down to some dramatics as Kyle Schwarber took three deep, and Jonathan Aranda had a chance to tie and keep it going. And his final swing landed about a foot and a half to 2 feet short of scaling the wall. But a good product. Major League Baseball's ratings have been up. I believe there's a litany of reasons as to why. Um, I know last year's World Series was pretty highly rated. They have been doing better in the ratings department than, say, the NBA. The NFL is still king. NHL's doing better too, as they did terrific with their All Star presentation. And Canada versus the USA was definitely a hit. But I believe speeding up Major League Baseball with the pitch clock, I know that when it first was introduced, Zappy and I were a little concerned on how it was going to affect pitchers, if there were going to be some injuries. And in the beginning, there were. And just sloppiness, would guys be okay? But when you have high speed sports like the NFL, like the NHL, like the NBA, Major League Baseball needed a better way to draw in casual fans. And I think they've done that. And you already have your loyal fan base who's going nowhere. But a win for Major League Baseball over the weekend for sure. And that kind of gears us up for the second half of the season. I've said it recently on a show more than once. New York Yankees, get it done, man. Some insiders around MLB feel that the Yankees are going to strike a big deal to get a big name to chase that ever elusive 28th World Series championship. I am hoping that they go to Arizona to get Eugenio Suarez and possibly Zach Gallen in some form of a combo deal. I know it's going to require some talent from Triple A. Right now, Spencer Jones is hitting the cover off the ball. And while it would be rough to part with a talented young player, you got to give something up to get something. I personally don't think George Lombard is going to be on the block. I think that's a guy that the Yankees want to develop with the uncertainty of Anthony Volpe's bigger future. And, shortstop is such a special position, especially if you have a generational talent. And I'm not saying that Lombard is that, but Lombard checks off a lot of boxes that he could be that special. But, right now, Anthony Volpe is the shortstop for the Yankees. So we'll see where that plays out. Another name that I'm curious to see if potentially getting moved. Now, granted, it would be a little bit of a shock to some. Brent Rooker of the Athletics. Do they want to part with a star while they're in the process of claiming a new city, a new home? I'd still say it's possible. Teams are looking for bats this time of the year, teams that are missing certain ingredients for that championship formula. I've said it on many a show. The Baltimore Orioles are going to be moving some talent, I would think, to National League teams. New York Mets, definitely in the market for another bat and potentially another starter. Also, some bullpen help to help shore up the bridge to get to Edwin Diaz. So I expect both New York teams to be active in this trade deadline. And like I said, I don't see the Yankees moving on from super utility man DJ LeMahieu if they didn't have something cooking. Of course, the Oswaldo Cabrera injury earlier in the year really complicated solutions at third base. Right now, they're running with Peraza, not a permanent solution. But there are third basemen to be had. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an IKF reunion. Isaiah Kiner Falefa possibly coming back to the Yanks. But definitely excited to see which way the Bronx Bombers go. And the Boston Red Sox, man, going into the break on fire, 10-game winning streak. Ever since packing and moving on from Rafael Devers, the team has really galvanized and is playing some great baseball right now. So a team that could have been deemed sellers is now definitely in the market to be buyers. So I expect the Boston Red Sox to potentially do something to improve their roster. And right now, they have as good of a chance as anyone to come out of the American League. Toronto Blue Jays were very hot, kind of cooled out just before the break as they lost 2 out of 3 to the Athletics. Um, so the Yankees didn't lose any ground the last 2 days going into the break, but the Yankees are two in the loss column behind Toronto. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. Got some news around the sports world. British tennis star Tara Moore suspended 4 years for doping. New York Jets superstar Sauce Gardner becomes the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. The Rays are on the verge of being sold. I'll start with the Rays, work my way back. It appears that the ultimate plan is to keep the Rays in Florida, preferably Tampa. After the damage of the hurricane to the Trop, the Rays were uprooted to Steinbrenner Field, which is the New York Yankees spring training facility. It only houses a little over 10,000 fans, which is 15,000 less than what the Trop offered. But I do believe that keeping this team in Florida and putting this team in the heart of Tampa is the way to go. And I'm also hoping for that for my own selfish reasons because I want to be able to see my New York Yankees locally. Tampa is not that far, and I'm able to plan weekends out of it, go see some baseball. But the Trop was an eyesore and undeniably the worst stadium in Major League Baseball. You can maybe compare it to some of the lackey amenities that Oakland had going on. But such a good organization given that they always overcome given their limited financial resources. So it's going to be good to see that the Rays are more than likely staying in the state of Florida. Of course, nothing is official until we see it because things change. But as of right now, it looks good that the Rays are going to be staying in Florida. As the New York Jets go, I think this is a big move and one that you have to do. When you're trying to redefine a culture and build a winning culture, you bring a throwback player from your past in head coach Aaron Glenn, who performed well on the Detroit coaching staff. Now he gets the head coaching gig in East Rutherford, New Jersey. This is a team in transition. The Aaron Rodgers experiment was just not a success. But Sauce Gardner is undeniably a generational talent. I remember when I did the AFC East show back when he was coming out of college, and I said this kid was going to give Jet fans that Revis Island feel. Um, and defensive minded coach, you got to build it. You got to ensure that you're keeping your main man. And I think Sauce Gardner is going to reapply himself, and I think he's going to look a lot more like the player he was in his rookie season. British tennis star Tara Moore with the suspension. All I can say is this: using performance enhancing drugs in any sport when you know the ramifications of the actions is just crazy work to me. It's like athletes betting. You saw everything that Pete Rose, the late Pete Rose, went through. It's crazy to me, especially when you have that kind of income coming in. But it's been proven betting is a legitimate addiction. So, very unfortunate news coming out of the tennis world. You hate to see that. Before I get out of here, want to hit on a couple more of my NFL hot takes as the NFL season draws ever so close, and I am so stoked about it. I know some people in Giant Country have suggested that Kayvon Thibodeau could be traded by the deadline because of an overflood of talent at the defensive end positions. That ain't happening. Giants are going to get the absolute most out of Kayvon while grooming Abdul Carter to be the next man up. He is going to be a day one starter, a day one quarterback wrecker. I cannot wait to see this man. I'm a Notre Dame fan, and when I saw him play against the Irish in that bowl game, it just really certified just how special this young man can potentially be. Of course, the nerve wracking time for me as a fan of football is the preseason. You don't want to see guys get hurt, but it happens. But I am crossing my fingers that this New York Giants defensive front stays healthy going into week 1 against the NFC runner up Washington Commanders, a team that the Giants have beaten more than anyone else. It's going to be exciting just to see this new defense playing all together. But no, Kayvon's going nowhere. Kayvon will be a Giant at least for the next 2 seasons, in my estimation. Got some hot takes. I think Jackson Dart potentially is going to see the field sooner than later. I think Jameis Winston's big role is not to replace Russell Wilson if they're looking for a quarterback change at some juncture. He is there to be a mentor for 2 years. Year 2, he's under contract. He will be mentoring Jackson Dart. I believe Calvin Ridley bust out season this year with the Tennessee Titans. Not that he hasn't had seasons like that in the past, but I believe that he is going to really help the rookie Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward has the potential to be the real deal. Shador Sanders, my hot take on him, I think he's going to work hard, but I think that he's going to find a way out of Cleveland sooner than later. I think Nick Chubb joining the Houston Texans in that backfield with Joe Mixon is going to be vital for the Texans to add a dimension of physicality that they haven't necessarily always had on that side of the ball. I think it's going to be a great thing for them to put teams away. And that essentially is why they are my pick to win the AFC South. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to refine himself this year a little bit because it's a very important year for his career trajectory. And I believe that Travis Hunter, once he masters the route tree and continues to work on his route running ability, is going to be a bona fide two-way threat. I don't think it's just a gimmick. I think he's really going to be that dude. I expect Christian McCaffrey to get back to health, but I believe that the 49ers are going to do a good job of spelling him. Isaac Guerrero, one of the better backups in today's NFL. I think he's going to be spelling him, taking some of the weight off his shoulders in that offense. Daniel Jones, yeah, that guy. Believe it or not, candidate for NFL Comeback Player of the Year with the AR-15 situation and how Anthony Richardson sadly just cannot seem to be healthy. It's a picture-perfect situation for Daniel Jones to reclaim his career in a place that has a lot less pressure than the New York tabloids. I think rookie Tyler Warren, who the Indianapolis Colts drafted, is going to be a huge help. And I'm expecting Jonathan Taylor to finish in the top 3 to 4 in rushing. He's one of those running backs that is so damn good, but we have a propensity for overlooking. I think he's going to get back to being that dude. Best defense in the NFL, I am going with the Denver Broncos. I think the Denver Broncos are a lot closer than people realize to step into the Kansas City Chiefs. And I also think the Los Angeles Chargers, in addition to doing a little bit of a uniform change up, are going to continue to take on the personality of their coach Harbaugh and really reapply themselves to running the ball and being more of a complete offense. But I expect Justin Herbert, now that he has some serious receiving help, to air it out more as well. You know, Trey Harris out of Ole Miss, who was Jackson Dart's #1 target, I think is going to pay dividends in that offense. I can't really bank on Mike Williams, the Charger veteran who left and then came back, to be a huge factor because he's just had so much issues staying healthy. But Lad McConkey, coming off a great rookie campaign, I expect big things out of him. I think Marvin Harrison Jr., who definitely paled in comparison to his rookie counterpart Malik Neighbors last year, I think he's going to close the gap a little and have quite the sophomore season. And with Kyler Murray reapplying himself to the game of football and getting more serious about being a professional, I have a feeling that the Arizona Cardinals could very well be a playoff team. I really like what Jonathan Gannon has done with that team. They've shown moments of being that team
particularly in some of their success against the NFC East. Of course, Gannon is very familiar with that division. But I think NFC West is going to be very, very competitive this year. Even the Seattle Seahawks, a team that I think most people would have penciled in to finish last, they did lose Geno Smith. They replaced him with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold coming off a hell of a year, the best of his pro career. I think the Seahawks, if they are able to get maximum contributions from the duo of Charbonnet and Walker, I think their defense is a little better than people give them credit for. I think the Seahawks are going to be in a lot of games, but I still got them finishing last. I think the 49ers and the Cardinals are going to be in the mix for some of the final wild cards. I don't think anybody is seeing the Los Angeles Rams this year in the NFC in general, let alone the NFC West. I think they're special. I really believe that Devontae Adams opposite of Puka Nakua is going to be a massive upgrade off of former Super Bowl MVP Cooper Kupp, who has gradually slowed down. Oddly enough, Cooper Kupp is in Seattle now. Not necessarily a move that I saw coming. I think Tyreek Hill may find his way out of Miami. I don't believe Tyreek Hill is all that happy. And the Dolphins, definitely a candidate to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, in my opinion. They're cap strapped, they're in cap hell. Tua Tagovailoa, it's still a scary situation to keep that man healthy. They applied a lot of quick strike stuff to their offense to get the ball out of his hands quickly. I wish him the absolute best. I really do. Who's going to lead the NFL in rushing this year? I think that's a good topic. I'm not quite sure, but two guys that come to mind. Bijan Robinson out of Atlanta, the Atlanta Falcons, I think has a great chance of winning the rushing title. And I am leaning towards rookie sensation, Las Vegas Raiders out of Boise State, Ashton Genty to have a huge year. I'm also a big fan of Omari and Hampton out of UNC, who the Chargers picked up. And with the unfortunate accident with Najee Harris during the 4th of July, um, yeah, he's going to get some big time opportunities. I'm also feeling good about the running back that the Denver Broncos drafted out of UCF. So I think you're going to see a lot of newer names on the top 10 rushing list this year. And then you have your usual guys that are supposed to be there. Your Saquon Barkleys, your Derrick Henrys, Christian McCaffrey, more of a dual threat. I don't see him leading the league in rushing, so to speak. Is this the year that the Buffalo Bills get over the hump? I don't know, man. I got to see them beat the Chiefs. Until I see it, I feel ignorant to pick them or Baltimore. The only team in the AFC that I think has proven that they have the moxie to deal with the Chiefs in a game of that manner is the Cincinnati Bengals. But the Cincinnati Bengals played a very, very physical division. And last year, their wonderful offensive performances got negated from just playing such poor defense. If the defense can step up a little, and if the offensive line can be adequate, not great, but adequate, I think the Cincinnati Bengals could find themselves on a deep playoff run this year. That AFC North division is going to be ferocious. You got a Ravens team that's on the cusp of a Super Bowl. You got a revamped Steeler team bringing in Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Rodgers and Jonnu Smith, a team that already has a phenomenal defense. Now they may be able to finally do something on the offensive side of the ball to be a legitimate threat in that division. I already mentioned the Bengals, what they bring to the table. So it's going to be an exciting division to watch. No team in the NFC East has been a repeat divisional champion in over 2 decades. I expect that trend to continue. Who's going to win the division? I'm not going to say just yet, but it's going to be somebody new. God, please let it be Big Blue. I'm going to get out of here. Got some bills to pay, some errands to run, and got to run to my less fun job. But announcements to come for our next show. We're going to be looking at getting that trade deadline show out to you soon for MLB. Going to be a lot of player movement potentially going on. I don't think it's going to be a quiet deadline, as a lot of teams are trying to jockey position for the stretch run If you haven't already, please make it a point to like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. Check out the Vicious Mix, the V Mix on live365.com with our man, Mr. Idris Salam. Also, make it a point to check out the Basement Show with our good friend, Johnny Nash, and Casual Convo, streaming on Hand Radio with Coco and Idris as well. Give that a look. Check out the Big Blue Podcast. Have a great day, everyone. And the second half is upon us. Football around the corner. Good time to be a sports fan. Have a great day.